Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to night one of Scratch and Claw 2. I am your host with the most, Matty G, and if you know I'm sitting here, we must be diving into the game zone. Tonight, we have our number one contenders match to see who will be taking on our newly crowned champ, Tarrin Neel. We have two returning players. The man sitting to my right would be Mr. Papa West. Papa, like your last match, you were out for blood. What do you look like you're dressed to kill tonight? How are we feeling?
Nothing's changed.
Okay, a man of few words. Mandalorian, how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was having a nap while you did the intro. Feeling good. I wake up and feeling like you diddy. Got my glasses. I'm out the door, about to hit the city. And here we go.
All right. I am, of course, hosting, which means you get to hear my beautiful voice and keep time tonight. I know, Matty G, you are not good looking, but that's okay. At least I have pants on. So let me introduce my three judges who really have no stake in this game. They really don't know the questions, which makes this even more interesting so they can just listen to the debate and go from there. We'll go down to the man sitting below me, Mr. Chris Diaz. What's up, brother? How are you tonight?
Doing good. A little late at night, but happy to see a good match between two people I actually like, and the one that beat me last night. Not the best up there. But it did be a fun match, and I wish them both good luck.
Well, at least you like these two. I mean, we all have to like somebody around here. The man that doesn't have any pants on, my D brother. How's it going up there?
My legs feel so aired out, I can't tell you. It's a cool breeze on the summer wind going on right now. I feel good, though. I'm excited to see, first of all, what league this is, because I have no idea. They dragged me off the street to put me in here. And I'm excited to find out what's going on.
All right. Well, Mr. Madi pulling the infamous Clerks line. I'm not even supposed to be here today. But that's okay. I will catch you up in a few minutes. And let's go to the man to your right, Mr. Carefree, Richard. What's up, buddy?
Not much. Excited to see a great match between these two. Am I the best at video games? No. Do I like to judge people who do? Absolutely. And both of these two competitors seem like they're itching, ready to go. So it's going to be a fun one, I bet.
We all like to judge people and not have any repercussions for it. So like I said, this is the game zone. I gave these gentlemen, they chose 4 topics, and I gave them 4 prepared questions. A little bit of the rules. I will have a 90-second opening, a 5-minute free-form back-and-forth debate. Let's just keep it civil. We are friends here. I mean, heat of battle, things happen, but let's try and keep it as friendly as possible. And a 60-second closing. Being the game zone, we have what we call the extra life. It is a minute extension to either your opening or your closing, because you really don't want to give your partner your opponent an extra minute to hurt you. Before you use that, let me know so I can adjust the timers accordingly. And then we have what we call the pause button. If you guys start over talking each other and I think the judges can't hear it, I'll hit the pause button, which means I will get you guys quiet and run 10 seconds off the clock. I don't care if that takes us up to time. I can get you guys to stop talking for upwards of a minute, well, we're going to burn a minute and 10 seconds off. Do it. Exactly. So let's get started, shall we? And the first topic comes in Jacob's strength of classics, which means he will be going first to open this round. And the question is, what is the most overrated side-scroller game released before 1999? Or 1990, I'm sorry. Can't even read my own handwriting. Let me read that one more time. What is the most overrated side-scroller game released before 1990? Papa West, 90 seconds when you start talking.
So when you look at these side-scrolling 2D platformer games, a lot of really good games, something that actually molded the gaming world as we know it today. And there are two series kind of merged together that when you think of 2D side scrolling that you think of the term Metrovania. And the reason you think of that is because you have the Metroid franchise with Samus Aran, and then you have the Castlevania franchise. Both had great games to come out of them. One had a very overrated game. This game, literally, when it came out, was praised as an excellent time killer, a perfect game to play. And then 2 years later, everyone who said that was like, I really wish that I would have waited before I made these statements, because this game is not as good as we thought it was. The game that I am talking about is Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. Time.
All right, leaving 19 seconds on the clock. Nicky, 90 seconds. Tell us, what is the most overrated side scroller?
All right, so this is actually like something that I had to Google search to like identify side-scrolling games, because my mind doesn't always word well. Like, it doesn't always put words together well. Side-scrolling basically just means it's scrolling, like you're going with it. So the game I chose to be an overrated game was Defender, a game you're basically a fighter craft and you're shooting these little dots that are supposed to be these other crafts. It's viewed as one of like the greatest like classic side scroller games, and I identified a lot of other side scroller games that were a lot better than that didn't have as high of a ranking. And so when it comes to like side scroller games, I played a lot of them. I did my research, and the one that I was most like bored by that had a high recognition was Defender. As far as video games go, it's a Pong level video game that has basic, very two-dimensional graphics, as all side-scroller games are. But yeah, it's not much to it other than your little triangular thing firing at little star-shaped thingies. And there's a lot of different vague shapes that may resemble a starfighter if you've never played a video game before. But in this modern day and age, after playing a game like that, as opposed to other games, that one just wasn't as fun as the other side.
All right, gentlemen, 5 minutes. Fight it out.
So Castlevania
Nicky,
2, I'll say that there's at least like something that you can do in that game. It's a little bit more interactive than Defender is. There's a plot to it, and Defender is more just like, woo, dots coming at me, I gotta hit those dots. Not much of a storyline, just kind of shooting dots with other dots.
Okay.
There's not much not much to my
So Nicky, I need to just reiterate something real quick. Defender is a 1981 arcade game. So the fact that it didn't look great is because it came out in the early 80s.
It's not
Nothing
just
back
graphics,
then
though.
looked great. But it's Galaga sideways. It was actually really fun. I'm a little upset you never played it, because you would know that it was actually a really fun game to play. Galaga's super fun to play. This was a lot better, or not really a lot better, but still pretty good. But here's something else I just want to ask you real quick. What makes Defender overrated? Because when I think of arcade games, I'm thinking of Donkey Kong. I'm thinking of Pac-Man. I'm thinking of Galaga. There's a list of stuff that I'm naming off. It's a while until I get to Defender. Why do you consider it overrated?
Well, because it's I looked up, frankly, I'll tell you why. I looked up what are some highly rated side-scroller games, because I actually had to go in and do some research on what is a side-scroller game. It's not really a form that I'm familiar with, but Castlevania, that's a fun game to play. I played that. And the date that it comes out in is irrelevant as to what the overrated is. Overrated, it means that it's highly rated amongst gamers. At the time, Defender was like, oh my God, it's Defender. I got to go put my quarters in and play Defender. Castlevania 2, I can at least play today and get like maybe 20 minutes to an hour of stimulation from it. If I'm playing Defender today, I'm bored with that within 5 minutes of putting that in. Castlevania 2, you can go in, and I will say thank you for not choosing Metroid, because Metroid was one of the most fun experiences of my childhood. And Castlevania 2 is not as good as Metroid. I'll give you that. But it's still a much better game than Defender. I mean, Defender is viewed as a classic video game, and I just don't see how it is.
Again, whenever they came out with, you can go to Walmart and there are those arcade machines that you can like put in your man cave that they have the old arcade games.
Very expensive.
They don't have Defender. Defender is not a classic game.
Wants to play it. Even
you can get it on emulator. Yes, you have to search to find it.
Know that Defender's overrated. Even the manufacturer knows that it's overrated. Castlevania is still a franchise.
They know it's a bad game.
Defender games still
it's
going.
It's not overrated. It's a bad game. When you look at Castlevania, though,
you from the people that I have researched, from the interviews that I have looked at, there are gamers out there, gamers that are much older than we are, unfortunately, that view Defender as a groundbreaking video game. And even so,
it doesn't mean it's a good video game.
I can't imagine thinking this game is better than Castlevania. I mean, Castlevania 2, say what you will about it, it has its flaws, as all games of that era do. But if you're comparing the two, you're trying to say that it's not a classic. It's not a classic to you because you weren't in that era of gaming. Okay. To the people that were in that era of gaming,
that's true.
It's a classic too.
But Nicky, if you look at it, I mean, it is a groundbreaking game. It came out in the 80s, in the early 80s. It like defined a lot of stuff that you can do. But that doesn't make it a classic. That doesn't mean it's one of the best rated games. And the fact that it's a bad game, that doesn't make it an overrated game.
Interactive and more stimulating, that don't have video graphics on them, that are more stimulating than Defender. Castlevania 2, that's something that you can't get from a non-video game experience. So it's a hard question to begin with. I won't argue.
You can actually, you can.
What it comes down to is what you view as overrated. I view Defender as a pretty crappy game myself, but at the time, it was highly regarded as a good video game, and I looked.
And in the 90s, it wasn't a highly rated game
compared to the games that came out during that same era. Let alone a game like Castlevania 2. Castlevania 2.
And when it first came out, yes, it was highly praised because of what it did. Because in 81, you didn't have all this stuff coming out. In 88, when games were coming out constantly, great graphics, stuff like that, no one was talking about Defender anymore. When they were talking about arcade games, they were talking about Mario, Pac-Man, all these other stuff. And as far as Castlevania, you can get a better story in the first Castlevania.
And then I played it myself and found that it was a good game.
Every Castlevania game is better than 2.
Time. All right, Nicky, this was Jacob's strength, so you're going to go first to close. 1 minute when you start talking.
So Defender is one of those games that it really is a pop culture phenomenon. It's seen in a lot of different medias, TV shows, movies. Whenever they show like an 80s era episode, they'll show them playing Defender. And even at the time, we're not going which game was overrated at the time. We're going which game is overrated. There are 70-year-old people, 60-year-old people. My father was probably really excited about Defender. But there's other games in that time period that are better, that don't get the pop culture recognition that Defender does. Castlevania 2, I don't think is an overrated game because I honestly never played it until I heard we were doing this debate. And then I played it and I kind of had fun with it. I had more fun with Castlevania 2 than I had with Defender. Castlevania 2 is a more interactive experience than Defender is, but it's not one versus the other. I just think Defender is related as an all-time classic, and I don't think it's a very good game.
Time. All right, Papa West, this is your strength. Wrap it up. Wrap this round up with a little bow.
So first off, I have no idea what TV shows you are watching because I have never watched a TV show or a movie where they're in an old-style arcade or a cafe or anything like that, and the people are playing Defender. I've never seen that again. Again, when you think of arcade games, there's a list. Defender's way down at the bottom. To be overrated, you have to be up there. Defender is not up there. With Castlevania 2, Castlevania, one of the most well-known series when it comes to side-scrollers. It's called Metrovania for a reason. Castlevania, a lot of people say it's one of the best. Everything you get in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. The best Castlevania game. You get better stories in there. You get better stories in Castlevania 4, Castlevania 5. It's just mindless backtracking in Castlevania 2. It's bad. It's not as good of a story. Easy bosses. Defender isn't even on the list. It cannot be overrated.
Time. Whew. All right, gentlemen, give it some thought. Let me know when you're ready. Guys, again, let's kind of keep it civil, kind of keep it, back and forth. I got 3 thumbs up. All right, let's just go to the man below me, Mr. Diaz. Who won this fight in your opinion?
So it was a difficult fight, but I think in the end, Papa West won this by default because the fact that Nicky never played Defender, that kind of hurt him a little bit, and that he keep talking about online people rather than his own experience. Papa West brought in like the Palmer Castlevania beat and why it overrated, and they could argue semantics, which should you need more in an argument than semantics, what people say.
All right. How about you, Madi? Who won this argument?
Yeah, I'm going with Pops as well. Just because I didn't really hear a lot of negative talk about Castlevania from Nicky. Like there wasn't any point where he was like, "Oh, it's like not overrated because of this." It was just, "Oh yeah, I played it. It's fun."
Yeah,
And like that, he kind of just left it at that. Like whereas Papa West over here really went in depth on why his game was not that good, as well as why I keep wanting to say Galaga. Defenders was not like
Because it's sideways Galaga.
it really is, but like it was just the fact
question was side scrolling. I couldn't pick Galaga.
yeah, but just because he said more against and for his own points, I'm going with Papa West here.
All right, Mr. Carefree, how about you? Your point, Jacob's won this round, but who would you have gone with?
I actually would have gone with Nicky. Where my other judge says Jacob was talking about Castlevania. I really didn't hear much about Castlevania from Jacob. I heard that it was on a list of most overrated. You talked about other Castlevanias, but he never exactly mentioned where on the list it was. And I did hear Nicky talk about Defenders and how, like, back in the day, it was actually, like, a memorable game, and if you play it now, it's not as good. Whereas if you play Castlevania 2, you could find some level of enjoyment. And so I just didn't hear enough from Papa West why Castlevania 2 was more overrated than, like, say, another Castlevania game. He just talked about other Castlevania games.
Yeah, I too agree. I would have gone with Nicky this round, but that's okay. That's why I'm not judging. Let's move on, shall we, gentlemen, to the realm of Nicky's strength of RPG. And the question is, excluding Final Fantasy, what RPG deserves a reboot or a remake to be re-released on modern consoles? Nicky, this is your strength, so you got 90 seconds on the clock.
Give me my extra minute now, extra life.
Whoa. All right. Let me reset that clock. Nicky, you have 2.5 minutes on the clock when you start talking.
So when it comes to video games, I'm not one of those people that like categorizes and subcategorizes it. I go by games, dude. I like to play it. And I was delighted to learn that this game was an RPG game because it's one of those things like what qualifies as an RPG game? That's why I really like this category because it's one of those things that it's up for like grabs. Like there's a lot of games that could qualify as an RPG game that also fall into subgenres. So this is a turn-based RPG game called Knights of the Old Republic. It's a Star Wars game released in the golden era of LucasArts, which is a company that no longer exists, unfortunately. And it's really the best game I've ever played in my life. I think that it is absolutely primed for a modern reboot on modern consoles, especially like with this next generation of video game consoles coming out. I think it fits in with Disney's plan of Star Wars. They want to go back. They want to go to unknown parts of the galaxy. And not only that, but it has a storyline that's great that they are going to mold into canon. So it's one of those things that you're not going to, it will be a lot like the Tomb Raider reboot, where the character Lara Croft, she's there, but it's a vastly different story than just like raiding tombs. Like it's a stranded on an island type thing. So we're probably still going to get the Darth Revan, Darth Malak, Mandalorian Wars, all that stuff in a Knights of the Old Republic reboot, but told in a different way that fits into a mythology that already has a canon that is carefully planned out. Don't hate me, sequel haters. That is carefully planned out by the story group. And with video games, they really pay attention to the canon. With books, they really pay attention to the canon. The movies, it may be an afterthought to them, but when it comes to video games, they like the canon. That's why I think Knights of the Old Republic would be a really good reboot for modern systems. You could have the upgraded graphics. You could have different controls, because I myself, as much as I love that game, am not very happy with the controls on that game, with the turn-based system. My favorite part of that game is the interactions, the role-playing aspect of the game. You are this Jedi. You are this former Sith Lord that is now a Jedi Knight, and you have to navigate through the game. You make choices, you make decisions. I think Knights of the Old Republic is primed for a reboot on modern consoles with modern controls and modern graphics. Modern story.
Alrighty, Papa West. Let me find that timer. Minute and a half when you start talking.
So when it comes to what deserves a remake, not only why could it, but why should it? This is a fun game back in 1995 that we saw a lot of praise, and then they did nothing with it. The game I'm talking about is Chrono Trigger, one of the best RPGs of the SNES. Very fun game, one of the best heroes, one of the best hair, or hero with the best hair in video games. And you can tell I am very jealous when it comes to characters with hair, because I do not have much. A fantastic story that we saw it come out, very highly praised, still very highly praised today. And the developers, Konami, did nothing with it. This was a franchise that could have been a franchise. They just never did anything with it. And it's horrible. So, Konami or Capcom, whichever one of y'all does this, let's remake Chrono Trigger, and let's start the Chrono Trigger franchise that should have happened 20 years ago. Why hasn't it happened yet? I don't know, but it needs to. Time.
All right. With 15 seconds left on the clock, gentlemen, 5 minutes, fight it out.
I mean, you asked.
Okay, so Nikki, no, I need to ask you a quick question.
Significance. Star Wars
Nikki,
still has cultural significance.
Nikki,
the Republic still has cultural significance. No. I'm entering this round. You're gonna have to wait. Knights of the Old Republic still has cultural significance. We want Darth Revan in canon. We want Darth Malak in canon. We want the Mandalorian Wars in canon. The reason your reboot hasn't happened yet is because nobody cares. Everybody cares about Star Wars. Everybody cares about Mandalorians. Everybody cares about
the whole
Sith Lords,
video game
Republic.
community.
Everybody wants
Nicky
to see a modern day reboot of Knights of the Old Republic, because like you said, why didn't they do anything with it? They made Knights of the Old Republic, they made Knights of the Old Republic 2, and then they had a failed opportunity when it comes to the Old Republic MMO. It is primed for a reboot.
All right, Nikki, that is enough talking. Again, everyone hates you for the statement you made earlier. Here's an issue with what I have.
I don't think anybody hates me.
Here's what I have an issue with what you said in your opening. You said that you do not like the turn-based fighting in Knights of the Old Republic. Fun fact, almost every single RPG that is true RPG has turn-based fighting.
Now you're going to a religious thing where this is a true RPG, this is not. RPG falls under what the Google search says it is, and Knights of the Old Republic is an RPG game. And you can have RPG games that don't have turn-based. Jedi Fallen Order is also an RPG game that you can have without turn-based. That has combat, Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Academy, Jedi Knight. All these games are RPG games that do not have turn-based systems. So I'll take your answer there and show your ignorance to the fact that there are far more RPG games than just the ones that are turn-based games. Like,
and
Final
you had to
Fantasy,
Google to
which
find
is
your answers. Thank you for calling me ignorant. Again, another thing I had with you, Nikki, you said that Star Wars is getting their video games up and running. How come we've only seen one video game in the last 5 years? They're not worried about their video games. They're worried about their movies, their TV shows, and their books. That is how Star Wars is building canon. If we're going to see Revan and Malik, that's how we're going to get it. And that's why KOTOR doesn't deserve
the modern day reboot.
A remake.
People want it.
Nicky,
And here's
let
the
Jacob
last
talk.
Time.
Here's
Time. All right. So I've hit the pause button. 5.
And Nikki, something
Keep
else
going.
to have with your point. I have an Xbox One sitting right over there. And you know what I can do with it? I can download for $4.99 Knights of the Old Republic. I have a laptop sitting right here. I can get on Steam and download Knights of the Old Republic. This is something I can play today. And with updated graphics, it's not going to do much for it. Whereas Chrono Trigger, I have to go out and buy an SNES Classic or buy an original SNES and find that game. It's not widely available. It's not the same, though, as playing on the original console.
It's better.
It's not better. It's
okay,
so much
so you
worse.
had your chance to speak. Now I'm going to speak. Knights of the Old Republic is primed for a reboot. Not only is it primed for a reboot, people are begging for it. There are people on the internet having petitions to reboot this game, to fit it into canon. People want Darth Revan in canon. People want Darth Malik in canon. You don't just get the updated reboot with the updated graphics, updated gameplay. They could essentially rescan Jedi Fallen Order with an Old Republic storyline, and it would still do so much better than the game that you're talking about. People want this game. They want Knights of the Old Republic back. They want it to fit into canon. One of the biggest things about Legends was that people were devastated that Darth Revan isn't going to be canon anymore. That Darth Malik isn't going to be canon anymore. The Mandalorian Wars isn't going to be canon anymore. They've been teasing it throughout Rebels. They've been teasing it throughout Clone Wars. People want the Mandalorian Wars. They want the Old Republic. And the best way to deliver that is the way that it was delivered originally, which is the Knights of the Old Republic reboot for the Xbox next generation, for the next generation.
People
PC.
are not demanding this game to be remade. They're demanding for these characters to be made into canon, which
is
you can do with a TV show and a movie.
Video game, which they were originally introduced in.
Which we haven't seen a video game from start. We've seen one in the last 5 years. I don't understand why you think that's how it's going to happen.
Which is why we need another
one. If you look at Chrono Trigger, this is a fantastic story. Back in 1995, some of the most likable characters of Chrono, Marley, Luca, Frog, a freaking frog fighting with the sword. That's better than anything
People are
Star
desperate
Wars.
for the times of LucasArts when they were still making good games. People want EA to take terms and Star Wars to take note.
People are tired of Star Wars. Look at all the hatred of the Rise of Skywalker.
Reboot
We are tired of Star
Jedi Fallen
Wars.
Order was not as good as Knights of the
We
Old
are
Republic. That's why they
tired
want a
of
modern
Star
day
Wars.
Woo. All righty. Papa West, 1 minute, wrap it up.
Again, with Chrono Trigger, you have great characters. You have a great story, which got really confusing, which could be fixed on a new game console. Thank you for not letting me talk about that at all, Nikki. So I'm not going to talk about it. You also have one of the greatest villains in Lavos. Again, Nikki, I wasn't able to talk about it. I hate you for that, but that's okay. Because we are tired of Star Wars. Look at the hatred of The Last Jedi. The hatred of Rise of Skywalker. We need to take a break. And you're talking about how they planned the sequel trilogy and they're planning everything. If you watch the last 3 movies, they didn't plan anything. Why is that going to be different with their video games? KOTOR, I can play that today. It's still a great game. Chrono Trigger, I cannot. I have to go out of my way to find it and look for it. And that is a tragedy. You remake it. You remake Chrono Trigger. You get Chrono Trigger, the franchise it deserved now.
All right, Nikki, 1 minute, wrap it up.
So first off, I want to say, Papa West, this is nothing personal against you. My game is just better than yours. People are begging for a Knights of the Old Republic reboot. If you are inside of the Star Wars community is very, very loud, and they want a Knights of the Old Republic game. They don't just want a movie, they want a new game that fits into canon. They saw what they could do with Jedi Fallen Order. Jedi Fallen Order is a good game. Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, those are arcade games that they put out for console. And I'm not going to spend time denouncing your game. Your game is a worthy reboot. It's just not as worthy of a reboot as Knights of the Old Republic. People are clamoring for this. They want these characters folded into canon, and they want to play it on a modern day game. That this is a perfect game in every sense, just like the original Tomb Raider. I made the Tomb Raider comparison before. They rebooted Tomb Raider, and that was one of the best games of that year. They could reboot Knights of the Old Republic the same exact way, have a canon storyline, have updated graphics, updated controls, everything the fans want in one game. Knights of the Old Republic has to happen.
Whew! All right, gentlemen. Heated arguments. When you get it, give me your thumbs up. I knew this was going to be good for our pay-per-view. All right, McGee, who gets your point?
Oh man. Okay, personal feelings aside, because I love Chrono Trigger and the art style from the same guy who did Dragon Ball Z. I'm a huge fan of. But I'm sorry, man, you didn't get enough out there about why Chrono Trigger deserved a reboot. Like, it was more of just an argument about whether we wanted Star Wars or not. And I mean, personal feelings aside, obviously, because I would love to have a reboot of Chrono Trigger. I gotta give it to Nicky on this
gets
one.
first blood of this round. Mr. Carefree, how about you?
Here's the thing. If we're talking arguments, Nicky would get it. However, I am giving it my point to Jacob because, Nicky, you gotta let Jacob have a chance to speak. You were cutting in half the time. He did not have a chance to equal debate. So you have to tell people, you have to share the space. If you're not going to share the space, I can't vote for you if you're going to try to hog the screen the whole time. So my point's going to Jacob.
All right, Chris. Who gets your point?
I do have a couple of notes. Can I mention them now or should I save it for after?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So you mentioned Chrono Trigger. Was it available at it release? It was on the PlayStation in 1999, Nintendo DS 2008, the Android for 2011, the Microsoft Windows for 2018. So it's still out there in other ways of getting it. And they made a sequel and a spin-off right in the realm. Nicky, that would have helped your argument a little bit. And to the tough.
Playing on mobile is nowhere near the same as playing it on original.
I'm going to reserve any comments on this until after the decision. I don't want to say anything.
So who gets your point?
But now rethinking it, this is tough. I kind of had to with these. I think they could get the point in the end. I went back and forth, but I think on it more with Jacob had got no time to mention all of the stuff and closing into the argument. I think it would have been interesting, but going to Nicky, it's tough.
All right, so Nicky tied, but we're moving back into Jacob's Strength of Modern Classics. Gentlemen, hold on. This is kind of a long question. With the release of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the games put you in a historical situation where you must protect history and not change it. So the question is, what should be the next historical time period to protect? Jacob, this is your strength. 90 seconds when you start talking.
I'm going to go ahead and add my extra minute, please.
All righty then. Let me find that timer. 2.5 minutes when you start talking.
Okay, I would like all my judges, my host, and my fellow competitor to close their eyes and imagine something for me. What makes Assassin's Creed great? That is close hand-to-hand combat and great set pieces, beautiful scenery, all stuff that you would get with this game. Now it's time for me to pitch the game, the best part of this. Let's go back to the year 336 before Christ, so many, many, many moons ago. There was a young gentleman of Macedonia who is out conquering the world. His name is Alexander the Great. Now, what if I told you, come to find out, Alexander the Great was hired by Abstergo, was commissioned by Abstergo to conquer the world and to get into India to get artifacts so Abstergo could, in fact, rule the world. Now, of course, Desmond, what does he hate more than anything? And that is Abstergo. What does he hate more than anything else? Abstergo winning. So it is Desmond's job to go back into the Animus, to be his ancestor back in this time period. And I didn't think of a clever name for him. But it is his task to stop Alexander the Great. And it's great because this game is literally going to start off by killing his father, Philip, which actually starts Alexander the Great, because Desmond's character kills Philip and he thinks, wow, this was easy. I've killed Alexander the Great. Uh-oh, come to find out it was his father. This game will take you through the journey of Alexander the Great conquering the known world. It will take you into Greece. You'll see all the amazing places that is Greece. It'll take you to Turkey, to the Middle East, to Egypt, into Persia, and then the Himalayas. As you are journeying through, you are taking out his captains. You are getting stronger as an assassin. You are upgrading your weapons until finally, right before they can cross the Himalayas, you get to Alexander the Great. And a great fight between you and Alexander the Great. Someone who has never lost a battle before, you are fighting out, and you have to kill him before he crosses to India. Time.
All right, I can delete that timer so I don't keep seeing it. Nicky, all right, Nicky, 90 seconds when you start talking.
All right, so Assassin's Creed, popular franchise made by popular people, big name corporation, all of that stuff. We're going to get the top end graphics, top end controls, top of the line systems, next gen everything. So one of the things that I like to say is that history is about what is soon enough to remember, but is far away enough to have disbelief that it could possibly happen. So my answer was World War I. For a long time in media, movies, video games, television, World War II was the quote-unquote sexy choice as far as wars go. World War I has made a resurgence. And I think of no better way for a video game to market itself and to have a storyline than based around World War I. We had Wonder Woman. We had 1917, 18. I don't remember the name of the movie. That's irrelevant right now. It's late at night. It was nominated for an Oscar. You know what I am talking about. It's directed by Sam Mendes. World War I is significant right now, 1917. So it's one of those things where World War I is significant, and the time period that my opponent chose is a great time period. I'm a historian myself. I love history, and I would love to see a video game that is based off of all those different time periods, any time period, really. But World War I is the right choice, just smart corporately right now, as far as everything going on. It's in the cultural zeitgeist.
Time. All right, gentlemen. 5 minutes. Fight it out. And please, back and forth.
Okay, so the reason I didn't want to mention this in my opening argument is because Alexander the Great, historians actually say that he died from typhoid fever. So if you're fighting a guy with typhoid fever, that's not a fight that's going to last very long. He's suffering. It's basically, essentially, he's dying from the coronavirus right now, and you're fighting a man that's already sick, which is dishonorable as far as Klingon standards go, and any man, essentially. So that's one of the reasons I don't think that's the best era to cover, but
quick question for you, Nicky. Do we know 100% how Alexander the Great died?
No, we do not. That's just
all we know. All we know is that he died before he got into India. So we're not changing history by changing the way he died.
No,
we're keeping history the same by making it to where he dies. And it's a game; it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Here's the issue with World War I, though. Yes, World War I would make a great set piece for a game, but not Assassin's Creed. I'm gonna go back to what I said in my opening. What makes a great Assassin's Creed game? A great set piece, great scenery, You know what World War I was? A lot of dirt and trench warfare. Close hand-to-hand combat. The only combat in World War I were people standing in trenches, reaching their gun over and shooting at the other side.
So if I
You're
may,
not going to get that in an
why-
Assassin's Creed game.
That's the reason why World War I is an appealing prospect to me, is because you just said that it's not a great Assassin's Creed game. That's why I want to see it in World War I. I want to see what the Assassin's Creed looks like in World War I. We already know what it looks like in those old times, those early years AD, that we know what Assassin's Creed looks like. This is Assassin's Creed on a world war scale. The world is at war. It is the war to end all wars. So assassins are out there. They're collecting information. They're killing targets that have like political importance. And this is the thing. You're going to see the war behind the war. So you're going to
you're not actually getting the war.
What they did to contribute to World War I. It has a little bit more creative liberties. Like I said, it's a game. You don't have to be historically accurate, but you have a little bit more creative liberties there, especially with the Assassin's Creed title. This is behind the scenes stuff. You're seeing what World War I was behind the scenes with Assassin's Creed in it.
So you just said World War I is great for a new video game, yet you want to take the war out of your game and go all behind the scene. You're literally going to kill men in suits. There's going to be no fighting. It's just you killing people.
Absolutely
That's
not.
not Assassin's Creed.
Like you said, you brought this up for me. It's trench warfare. You have to navigate through the trenches. People don't know that you're there.
Not if you're behind the scenes.
Action or out of the game. While a battle is going on, you might have to assassinate some sort of secret target. There are assassins on both sides in my version of a World War I Assassin's Creed game.
Because that's
World War I
I
was the entire world. So of course there would be fighting factions of assassins going on both sides. You could even argue, make it a story point in the game that the assassins themselves are why World War I happened. This is all just a shadow war between assassins that is happening on the front lines with trench warfare with the rest of the world. There's a war within a war. The rest of the world is at war, so they don't notice the assassins. It's perfect.
So you're going to get into politics about stuff. Wow, Star Wars Episode 1 really taught us what politics does.
I love politics.
Great for that. See, here's another reason why Alexander the Great would be a great game. See, here's the thing. Assassin's Creed has the stuff that make it work. You look at all the great Assassin's Creed games, Assassin's Creed Alexander the Great, whatever we want to call it, fits into that. When Assassin's Creed goes off onto those random things, Syndicate, the two with the French Revolution, Assassin's Creed Chronicles, they start going off into these kind of newer things, get guns involved, get all these weird that's not
culturally significant.
Get all these things that's not Assassin's Creed based.
In this cultural zeitgeist, it's popular. World War I is the new World War II, and it's a horrible thing to say.
You stopped me before I could say that the game sucked.
But it's a perfect
that is a clever tactic
for an
Nicky.
Assassin's Creed game because it's something that we have not seen before.
And you're taking a World War I out of it by saying that you're going to be back behind the scenes. Here's the great thing about mine. You're not going to be behind the scenes. You are going to be attacking Alexander the Great while he's attacking all these cities. You're going to be taking out his officers trying to get to him.
In the backdrop, there is a battle of trench warfare going on, and you have to navigate.
And you're going to be behind the scenes.
The battle is going on. You have to hide from a battle in trench warfare. It's trench warfare. Somebody peeks.
But not if you're behind the scenes.
So if you're
in the trenches are soldiers.
It's an interesting.
The generals were not in the trenches.
Alrighty, Nicky, 60 seconds. Wrap it up.
So I'm not going to say that Jacob's game is bad because it's not a bad game. It's an Assassin's Creed game that I want to play. But it's all about like what is culturally significant right now. You mentioned the French Revolution. The French Revolution, I don't think that was significant since Captain Picard was on the air and he started talking about it in an episode of Next Generation. The French Revolution is one of those things that many people, kids that play these Assassin's Creed video games, do not even know about. World War I, it's a world war. You have something that we haven't seen in an Assassin's Creed game, and you think that you're taking the entire backdrop out of it. That's the whole point. The backdrop is covering the world that is within. There's a war behind a war. There are assassins that are fighting against each other that you don't know about that is happening during World War I. That's what's so brilliant about it, is that World War I is a perfect cover for the assassins. What were they doing? They were fighting during the war. But you get to be that assassin carrying out objectives.
All right, Papa West, this is your strength. Wrap up this round.
Again, Nicky, I'm really confused with what you're trying to say, because you said that the assassins are behind World War I, that you're going around killing the higher-ups, which takes you out of World War I, takes you out of the trenches. But then you're saying, no, you're actually navigating the trenches where the higher-ups were not there. They were off actually like commanding things, not in trench warfare. So I'm a little confused on what you're trying to make. Whereas with Assassin's Creed Alexander the Great, or whatever we want to call it, you are literally taking on Alexander the Great. And I made a comment earlier that Alexander the Great never lost a battle. So you are trying to take him on. You lose every single time, but you win by taking out one of his commanders. But in the defeat, you get stronger, and it keeps building up to this great fight between you and Alexander the Great. It culminates to this amazing climax with, again, Nicky, I don't know what yours is. You're going in and out of the war. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Time.
All righty. Great choices by both of you judges. I'd play personally both of them. I pre-ordered Valhalla the minute it came out. I got 3 ups. Mr. Carefree, who gets your point this round?
It was a close one, but I'm giving my point to Jacob. Jacob he painted a better picture when it comes to Alexander the Great, whereas I enjoyed Nicky's take of World War I. There were times in his argument he was kind of contradicting himself, where he says he's going to be on the scenes, but behind the scenes in modern warfare. And even Nicky kind of says he would love to play Jacob's game, and I just felt like Jacob had a more explicit direction toward his game would be.
Okay.
So that's my point to Jacob.
Chris, how about you, buddy?
Okay, let's just get that one note out of the way. Papa West, that man's been dead since Assassin's Creed 3, so right now Layla is the protagonist. I'm putting out there. But my point go to Jacob. He painted a great picture. He gave everything. Nicky hit him that had been done before in Odyssey and Black Flag and RG type of combat. Maybe Nicky would have won, but Papa Vet just keep hitting and hitting despite one misinformation. Yeah, Jacob won at the end.
All right, Medina, how about you? Jacob's already won the round, but who got your point?
I was going to go with Jacob as well. Again, same thing that these guys are saying is, he came in that opening argument, put his foot right on the gas, and then never took his foot off. Like, he was in there the entire way. And I think that the idea of going back to Alexander the Great's time was much more concisely delivered than Nicky's idea. And one other point that I want to mention that was a really strong point that kind of maybe got swept under the rug a little bit was Jacob saying that the ones that had guns in them, like Black Flag and the one with the the Revelations and the
right.
I haven't played a lot of the I
Unity, Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 3.
The ones where they started bringing guns in is kind of where it started falling down the hill a little bit, and now they're going back. So the one that they had in Rome was, I've heard, really well done, and Valhalla looks very exciting.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed Origin, and then we got Odyssey, and now Valhalla.
Yeah, so it was a really minor point that kind of like slipped under there, but another strong point and really strong round from the 23rd favorite dad of the league.
Something that stuck out to me that was said by Nicky was the fact that of how Alexander the Great was dying, but that's okay. It's all good. I wish, Nicky, you would have hit that a little harder, but that's all right. All right, so the score now is 2-1. Either Jacob wins and moves on to play Tarrin, or Nicky gets this point, and we move on to the speed round. And that comes in Nicky's other strength, which is fighters. And the question is, other than Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter characters, what's the most underrated fighting game character? Again, the question itself is, what is the most underrated fighting game character? Nicky, 90 seconds when you start talking.
So the character I picked was Boba Fett from the Star Wars game Masters of Terrascasi for PS1. Now this game isn't just underrated, it is hated by both Star Wars fans and fans of fighting game. But the question is about the character. The character is Boba Fett. The things you get to do in this game is you get to use his jetpack. You get to use the rocket on the jetpack. You get to use the wrist darts. You get to use the wrist gun. You get to use the blasters. You get to use the jetpack itself. You get to fly in this game. Boba Fett is a bright spot in a game that is really, really panned for being a bad fighting game and a bad Star Wars game. This game had the 360-degree fighting style that we don't really see in games like Injustice now anymore. They tried it in DC Universe versus Mortal Kombat. It didn't really catch on. I don't particularly like it myself. But like I said, the bright spot in this game is Boba Fett. You get to play inside of the Mandalorian armor. You have access to all of his Mandalorian weaponry. You get the wrist darts. You get the gun. You get the rocket. You get the jetpack. It's everything that you would want from Boba Fett in a fighting game. And I actually considered choosing Yoda in Soul Calibur 4. But I went with Boba Fett in Masters of Terrascasi because it's one of those games that people really hate on. And I really feel like Boba Fett is an underrated point in that game because the rest of them, it's just like you're shooting things, you're hitting things with a lightsaber. But Boba Fett, you can do everything that you ever wanted to with Boba Fett.
Time. All right, Papa West, 90 seconds.
One thing I really like about this question is that let me re-explore games I haven't played in a while. And there's this one fighting game that is very Mortal Kombat-esque. The easiest way to describe it is Mortal Kombat meets dinosaurs. The game I'm talking about is Primal Rage, and the most underrated character of this game is Talon. For those of you who do not know, who have not played this absolute gem, Talon is a raptor. Talon is like one of the best fighters in this game. Even though when you think of Primal Rage, when you watch all the games of it, you see people playing as Sauron, the T-Rex, Diablo, another T-Rex, Chaos and Blizzard, both apes. When you think of Primal Rage, you think of the big monsters, and it's really sad because the true gem of this fantastic game is Talon, the raptor. His fighting is super smooth. He has amazing executions. The only execution in the game where literally you call people off screen, he or she, I don't know. They call babies to come and eat up the other dinosaur. There's one execution where they go to the side and spin like a tornado and just start attacking you. It's a really fun game, a really underrated game. Talon's the most underrated character of this game as well.
Time. All right, gentlemen, 5 minutes. Fight it out.
Okay, Nicky, I am not going to let you open this one up because you have opened every other one up, and I am damn tired of it. It is my turn to start talking. So, Nicky, here's the thing. You're right. This game is hated. It is one of the worst Star Wars games ever. It is a bad game. And you say that Boba Fett is the only shining spot of that game. That is 100% false. Boba Fett.
Mara Jade is a garbage character. I'm sorry. I knew what you were going to say, but Mara Jade is a garbage character.
Okay.
George Lucas himself hated that character, and it's not about what the best.
Thank you for letting me finish, because that's not what I was going to say.
Boba Fett being the best character in that game and being the most underrated character in fighting games overall. There are other Star Wars fighting games. Star Wars Episode 3 has a versus mode that has a really good versus fighting mode on that. But Boba Fett, you get to play as everything that you've ever wanted from playing with Boba Fett. You get the rocket.
The most overhyped movie villain in any movie. See, here's what I was going to say. Here's what I was going to say, Nicky.
So you're bringing up something that's actually irrelevant.
Here's what I was going to say, Nicky. Boba Fett is not the only shining spot of that game. Boba Fett is the most over-thought-out character. Because you're right, you have access to all of his stuff, and it does not translate well in the game. The controls suck in the game to begin with, and then you add the flying, you add all the extra weapons, It is atrocious.
You're
Your
absolutely
game-
correct. The controls in that game suck. It's not about the game, though. I'm talking about the character. I played this game on an emulator, which the controls
And he's a horrible
are
character.
perfect on. Excuse me, I'm talking. Boba Fett is an excellent game when you have.
Oh, you don't like when
controls.
people
It's an
interrupt you
excellent
and start
character when
making
you have
random
ideal
statements?
Controls. You get to see. I went.
Nicky.
I got to see what moves I was doing. And Boba Fett, out of all the moves in that game, it's an
You
old
don't like
game
it. I
that
wonder
doesn't
how
have as
everyone else feels
advanced
about this.
features as new Mortal Kombat.
No one likes it,
games
Nicky.
have. But Boba Fett is still the best one because he has the most abilities in that game. He has the jetpack.
And they do not translate well in the game.
He has the dart. He has the gun. Luke Skywalker just hacks a lightsaber like Luke Skywalker does. But Boba
RJ
Fett
does the same
is
exact thing.
extremely
Yes.
underrated character because everybody hates that game. But
Completely
Boba Fett
overrated.
is still a shining spot in that game because I played that
And
game last week and I really had fun with it.
Yes.
Playing as Boba
And
Fett.
Nicky, you would be correct if you took Boba Fett out of that, put him into like a Soul Calibur game, gave him you actually made him control well, attack well. You'd have a really good argument. But you're taking, again, the most overrated character in all of characters
I'll agree
in a
with that.
bad
to be
fighting
honest.
game. You're taking a bad fighting game, bad controls, but he has all these extra powers that you still can't even do properly
He's an
because the
overrated
game
character in
sucks.
Star Wars canon. He is an underrated character in that game because the developers of the game and the developers of the system could not get that game to work on that system like the way that it should. We have the power today to run emulators. Those games are the same, but we have the power to adapt our personal control preferences to that game. The controls sucked on that game. That is a question that is irrelevant for this question. We have Boba Fett, which is a character in the game. And in this game, you can use his jetpack, you can use the rocket pack. When it comes to your game is a pretty good game, and Talon is a really cool
fantastic
character in
game.
that game. I don't think it's
Really cool
underrated.
character.
Talon's the first character that I play whenever I went and played that game.
Hey,
Boba
that's
Fett,
cute for
however, is
you,
one of those
But
characters
Talon's
that
not the first character you think of.
I wanted to play with Luke Skywalker. I wanted to play with Mara Jade because she had a purple lightsaber.
Again, if you think of Star Wars characters, a lot of people, when they looked at that list, they want to play as Luke Skywalker or Boba Fett.
They
Again,
do.
he's
That's
an
why it's
overrated
underrated.
character. It's a crappy game. He's crappy in that game. Talon, I'm surprised that was the first character you played as, because a lot of people started out playing as the big bad T-Rexes. Because after watching any Jurassic Park film, we all know that T-Rexes are apparently the best
But
dinosaur of
Talon's
them
just
all,
a cool name.
which is
I saw the name
completely
Talon and I
incorrect.
picked the name Talon. I saw the name Boba Fett. Boba Fett's one of those characters that I always stood away from because Boba Fett is
You didn't like the name
overrated
Vertigo?
character in the franchise
Sauron?
itself. That's why he's
Or
an
Armageddon?
underrated character in the game
Or Blizzard?
because you pick Boba
Or
Fett
Chaos?
and then you get to use all these abilities. Every other character,
well.
they either have a gun or they have a stick. Boba Fett has a vast
Boba
variety
Fett has a gun also, so
different
that's an
abilities
invalid
that they
statement.
have.
But
Luke
again,
Skywalker
you start
has a
playing
lightsaber.
30 seconds into
Han
the game,
Solo has a
you're
blast.
throwing the
Boba
game
Fett
in the
has
trash
everything that you could
because
want.
the game
that
is
Boba Fett has.
trash. With Primal Rage, that game is a gem. That game is fantastic.
But it's not about the game.
And-
It's about who's the most underrated character in the game.
And when you think of Primal Rage, the box art
Any
is
fighting game Boba
Sauron
Fett, he needs to be
versus
more fighting.
Blizzard.
Boba Fett needs to be
When
more
you
fighting.
think of that game,
All right, Papa West, 1 minute. Wrap it up.
okay, when you look at the box art, when you think of Primal Rage, when you're like, you can fight as dinosaurs, sweet, I can fight as a T-Rex. Your first thought's not, I'm going to fight as a raptor. That's exactly the way it is with Talon. Again, Talon is the best character in there, but you don't think of him, and that's what makes him underrated. When you think of Star Wars characters in fighting games, I mean, look at Battlefront 2. Whenever they were showing it off, Boba Fett was one of the ones showing it off because they know Boba Fett sells, even though he's the most overrated character ever. You're taking a crappy game, you're taking a crappily executed character, and it's not really underrated because when you think of Masters of Terras Kasi, Boba Fett's the second person that I think of fighting with. But when you think of Primal Rage, you don't think of Talon. And it's unfortunate because Talon is the best. I'm going to name my next child Talon. But unfortunately, I cannot have kids anymore.
Time. Already, Nicky. Wrap up this match.
Yes, sir. Oh, you're assuming too much, man. I'm going to win this point. So Boba Fett is one of those characters that not only is he underrated, he's underrated in a game that's underrated. So I thought of Masters of Terrascasi right away because it's an underrated game that people pan on for illogical reasons. The programmers of the game were not good at creating a good control set. If you have a good control set and you have a good system to run it on, Boba Fett is the ideal character to have on that game. Like I said before, I keep bringing this up. Boba Fett has the jetpack, he has the wrist darts, he has the guns. The way that his move set works is far superior to anybody else on that game. And I wish Boba Fett was on more fighting games because we have one other Star Wars fighting game, which is Revenge of the Sith. There's a versus mode in there that is essentially a fighting game. And Boba Fett isn't on there because it's Revenge of the Sith. I wish Boba Fett was in more fighting games because he has all the abilities that you could want Boba Fett to have. You get all the abilities. Jetpack, wrist darts, guns, everything you want. He can fly now. They fly now, man. And your game was great. My game sucked as far as I
Whew. Great round, gentlemen. Great choices. Boba Fett versus a Raptor. I mean,
Can I hear the wording of the question again?
sure. The whole thing, or just the
What was the actual What was the actual question? Like, what were they?
most underrated fighting game character?
Okay. Yeah, let's go.
All right, Mr. Diaz. Who won this argument?
Okay. I had to go with Jacob. I think he brought on more movement, more movement information, and a lot of other stuff to what his character does best in the game. I only heard weapons. I didn't hear any move set against any other character. Jacob brought a lot more. In the end, Jacob just for his opening argument that pedal all the way to the end, like and just fought that Let's Play. So my point going to Jacob.
All right, so I'm going to mix it up. Mr. Carefree, who gets this point?
My point is also going to Jacob. I heard more reasons why Talon was a more underrated character, and Nicky brought up, like, he even kind of admitted the controls of his game kind of suck, and I felt like when he's talking about how he has the jetpack, the other pack, the missiles, it seems like the creators put more thought into Boba Fett than the other characters in the game, and that really can't make him underrated. If anything, it would make the character kind of overrated because they put more effort into Boba Fett. And I heard more reasons why in Primal Rage you would think of the other characters other than Talon, but to be clear, you're both wrong. It's Kabuki Joe from War Gods, who's the most underrated character.
Ooh.
And you have never played
I
Primal
love
Rage, and that is atrocious.
I have played Primal Rage.
Ooh.
And Madi, just out of curiosity, who'd have gotten your point?
Kabuki Joe would have gotten my point as well. 'Cause War Gods is such a randomly great game that I still have on N64 in my
So do I.
living room there. But no, Jacob would have gotten my point. Basically, for the same reasons that these guys said, it's a clean sweep. There wasn't a lot said against Primal Rage and Talon.
that game.
And to be fair, I haven't played Talon. That's on me. I gotta go look for a copy now. But it was,
Best character in the game.
and now I'm gonna have to try and find out. But like, it ended up turning more into an argument of like defending the Star Wars game and saying the controls were bad, instead of why his character was underrated. And Boba Fett as a character outside of video games for me is overrated. In the game, I didn't really hear much about why in the game he was
I agree.
overrated or underrated rather.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, and your winner, moving on to play our newly crowned champion, everybody's 57th Band League father, Papa West.
I love these rankings of his fatherhood. It's great.
I know,
His
right?
favorite father, by the way.
All right, Nicky. You put in a hell of a match. Nothing to hang your head about.
Oh no, I'm relieved it's over.
You're relieved it's over. I can tell you that I am setting up a match between Mr. Carefree and Chris Diaz, and the winner of that will be playing you to keep going. But that aside, how do you think you did tonight? Personally, I think you put up a hell of a fight. There were a couple of ones where they didn't give you the point, but in my opinion, I would have. But,
I think it falls down to understanding the rules. Like, you and me come from, like, we're fans of NASCAR. So how NASCAR goes is we ride the rule as much as we can. So you put that disclaimer at the beginning of the match saying that you will stop us if we go too far in the second round. So that's what I do. I go as far as possible until you stop us. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you stop us, that's less time for the other person to talk. So I'm all for that. I'll ride that line as long as I can. So it's one of those things where it goes to like rule understanding. I don't think that necessarily the judges had like the interpretation of the rule as I did. But when I hear that rule, I go with, you'll stop us when we go too far. So I go for it. If I don't talk, like I have a small voice. If I don't talk, somebody will talk over me. So that's why every single round I started talking out the gate until the last round, because honestly, I started feeling bad about it. But the second round, I feel like that's the whole entire point. We're supposed to get our point across. So like that second round, I think it's just kind of rule understanding. What is the rule? Do we go until you stop us? Or do we go beforehand under predetermined requisitions? Like, do we go like a 20-second interval, 30-second interview? I talk because you didn't stop us. So I'll talk until you stop us every single time. That's just how my strategy is.
Hey, and what works for you works for you. And like I said, I will call timeout if I don't.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But also, but as last time you played a hell of a match, obviously you'll be back. I told you what's coming down the line, Mr. Mandalorian. So hang tight. Let me go ahead and tie G. All right, Mr. West. You are now on a 2-0 streak. You've gone 3-1 this season. How you feeling about this one?
It doesn't matter what I think about this, because since that debacle, that kerfuffle you want to call, I've had one thing on my mind. You threw Chris in my way. I still had one thing on my mind. You threw Nicky in my way. I still have that one thing on my mind. Give me Tarrin.
Well, I guess I can already. Hey, you've got your wish. You will be playing Tarrin for, as of now, his title. As always, you came out swinging for the fences. Can you line up another home run?
Oh, you know I can. Did you see that cool little bat flip I did whenever I won?
I did.
It was really cool. I really enjoyed that. Business, Papa West, is over. I closed for the day. Now it's back to fun, Papa West.
Oh. All right, Papa West, hold tight for a minute. Let me grab our judges. Guys, what did you think about this match?
That was close to being on fire as you can get, I think, based on how heated it was.
Yeah.
These guys really went at it. And, Nicky, to your point, you really did go until they told you to stop. So I give you credit for it. But, I mean, if this is a semifinal match to go up against Tarrin, I could see either one of these guys going after him.
Yeah, it was. It was a good old match. And, Nicky saying that, like, we're supposed to stop him, but someone who's competed in multiple of these debate leagues, who have taken debate classes, who have also watched debate shows, you have to give the other guy a chance to speak. You can't just keep on talking over them. It's called a debate. You say your thing, you rebuttal what they say, the other person gets to say one thing, rebuttal what they said. It's all about sharing the space. Okay, you guys want to be competitive, but you only get 5 minutes to talk, and you both need to hear your arguments.
Yeah.
This was a fun match. It was all around, and much I had to take out point on Papa West for Assassin's Creed information. It was a fun match. He did a great job. Nicky did a great job. This was a fun match all around. I can't wait to see where this goes next with Papa West.
Well, and I can already announce that both of these players have played our champion Tarrin this year, and they both have lost. So coming up in our soon-to-be championship match, will Papa West get his redemption is the question. All right, let's go around the horn. Let's go around the horn. Mr. Carefree, where can people find you online?
They can find me on Facebook under Richard Schwartz, YouTube, Twitter under External Void, and you can find me stuck home in LA because, quarantine. Yay.
The Pantsless Madi, where can people find you, homie?
You can find me on social media at Pantsless Madi. I'm just kidding. It's not at Pantsless Madi. That would definitely not get me hired at any location except for probably Walmart. You can find me at MadiR on most social media, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, what have you. I'm on LinkedIn, but I haven't checked it in years, so don't bother. Yeah, that's about it. Stay safe. Stay peaceful. Love everybody. It's not that hard.
Mr. Diaz, where can people find you, homie?
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on all the other groups. Stay tuned for Saturday night. Tune in to Take 3. I'll be doing another one of them Victim. Anybody want to come watch?
All right, Mr. West, where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook at Jacob E. West. That E is very important. Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, all those weird things. 307 Jakob. That's YAHKOB. You can find me on the Facebook group. Cool Guy Presents Cool Guy in the Gang. It is all nonsense all the time. I do a weekly thing on there called Console Chats where we talk about video game related stuff. And right now we're doing a best video game of all time tournament. Really fun. You should check it out.
And Mr. Nicky, where can people find you?
You can find me right here at TMG After Dark on Saturday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Pacific, whatever time it is where Alan is. Nicky Flicks. Also, that's Nicky Flicks with an X. We're going to be putting out a lot more videos now. I got a new chair that's going to have like lumbar support and upper neck support, so I'm going to be able to sit down a lot more. So you can find us up there. We can have a Star Wars show. We're going to have a comic book show. We're going to have all kinds of show on Nicky Flicks with an X. Find us there. Thank you to Papa West. Thank you to all my judges. And this was a good night. And this is the way.
And I am your host with the most, Matty G. Like he said, you can find us Saturday nights here at TMG After Dark. And as well, here you can find me running Suplex City Chats on Thursday nights. We talk about all things professional wrestling. So definitely check it out. Like Madi said, stay safe. Love everyone. It's actually harder to be an asshole than it is to be a nice person. So on that note, everybody, keep watching Scratch and Claw 2.